Madagascar is a classic of the DreamWorks catalogue. Like, seriously, a lot of fun. But it's not a franchise I think about very often. Like, I remember going to see the first film in the cinemas as a kid. I very much enjoyed it then. And I do watch it every so often, but I can't say that I have the same nostalgic feeling towards other members of the franchise. Madagascar, Escape to Africa, Madagascar 3, the Penguin spin-off, just didn't care. And so I think Madagascar's largely been able to avoid me over-analysing things to the nth degree. And that's one of my favourite pastimes. But of course that was until recently, because just the other day, I had a thought. Why doesn't Alex relapse into being a meat addict during the course of the second film? How does he completely keep his cool over that long period of time? Does that plot point ever get brought up again? Okay, so I guess we'd better give some context, right? Madagascar follows the story of 4 animal friends who, after a night out of the zoo in New York City, are sent away by ship to a nature preserve in Kenya, but along the way, they're swept overboard during the takeover of the ship by a crew of penguins. Penguins who also escaped from the zoo, and so they're washed ashore on Madagascar. And here is where it all starts to go very wrong for poor old Alex. So during his time at the zoo, Alex never wanted for anything. He was pampered, he was loved, fed steak and other cuts of meat by the zookeepers who looked after him. And this in turn allowed him to become really close friends with animals like Marty, animals that in the wild would have been his prey, as a zebra. And so he never really developed a prey drive because he didn't need one. But once he's left on the island with no keepers to tend to his every whim and need, nobody to bring him any food, and no real knowledge of how to get it himself, suddenly those survival instincts kick in, and they kick in big time. The need to eat meat. And so his friends like Marty start to look like an especially tasty morsel. After he attacks them and comes to his senses, he flees the group, only to eventually overcome his instincts and save his friends, before his addiction is sated by the penguins who have arrived on Madagascar with their commandeered ship, having decided that Antarctica was no place for a penguin to live. And with them, they brought the secret of sushi, fish, a food that Alex apparently likes even better than steaks. Guess he likes the taste, because here we come to my first issue. Regardless of how long they stay on Madagascar feeding Alex fish, doesn't matter, because here is the reality. For a lion, fish are not a long-term solution. And granted, I only did a bit of cursory research on the topic, but from what I read, whilst a lion does enjoy the occasional fish from time to time, they don't go fishing like other cats. They'll eat it if they find some, like washed up on the river shore or something like that, but that being said, whilst it tastes nice, they can't survive off it long term. They've adapted to their environment. They live on the African savannas, a place not exactly teeming with marine life. And so lions are going to need some significant food, some red meat, like the steaks that Alex loves so much. So whilst the fish might fight his cravings for the time being on the island, eventually one of two things is going to happen. He'll keep his willpower, but over time he'll slowly lose his strength until he's a much weaker version of himself, and since he's already a massive weakling of a lion, well, good luck if that happens. And the other suggestion is that perhaps eventually his body is going to recognize that the fish are not quite cutting the mustard anymore, and so his mind will again revert to that crazy carnivore who would gladly chow down on his friends as long as it gives him a quick hit. As long as he's able to hit that meat quota for the day. Oh yeah, he'd probably realize what he'd done and be sad afterwards, but he'd still do it in the moment. So there's no reason to suspect that he's somehow permanently cured. And in the long term, that fishy diet is going to end up being a bit of a bust if you ask me, whether it results in him going crazy again or dying. But hey, that's not the only issue I've sort of run into with these, right? So in the third one, I think I can suspend my disbelief about them finding enough food so that Alex doesn't get driven to insanity again and doesn't try to murder his friends whilst they're on a world tour because, well, they're on a world tour. They have access to various different things. I'm sure a lion could survive on circus food. They'd probably get disgustingly obese and sick, but they'd still survive. But it's more when they turn up in Kenya at the nature reserve that I start to think, so why is nothing going wrong right now? Because first up, when they turn up at the preserve, yeah, there's probably fish there and whatnot, if he is still on that pescatarian diet by then, but at the same time, there'd be so many more animals to compete with for said fish, like the hippopotamuses. It's not happening. You don't mess with a hippo, son.
Get my name out your fucking mouth!
Wow, dude!
So now once again, Alex needs to eat. And it's not like he's going to struggle to get food. I mean, he doesn't even have to hunt. That's not how it works in the Pride. The lionesses are going to be doing the majority of the hunting. And it's not like Alex would really have much of a chance of taking down a wild animal anyway, due to get clobbered. He is the pampered city lion after all. Regardless, all of these factors mean there's no chance he's going to be able to keep up his sushi-based diet. So he'll have to turn to meat. Meat from the Pride, hunted meat, dead meat, from the animals that live in the reserve. So animals like Marty, or Marty's cousins. So are we just going to sit there and think, oh, Marty will be a-okay with Alex chowing down on his freshly hunted friends? Like, sure. circle of life and all that, but I still don't see this being something that you can get past if you have proper sentience. You can acknowledge that he has to eat, but why would it be still so deeply uncomfortable and disconcerting? Like, oh, what are you eating today? Zebra? Oh, yeah, sure, that's cool, that's cool. Ooh, that looks like Uncle Barry. You get what I'm saying? But then on top of that, it's not like Alex is some sort of heartless monster who cares nothing about his friends at all. He was so upset in the first movie when he went crazy that he went and fled into the mountains to some isolated area away from anybody else so he doesn't hurt them when he's fully lost control over himself. Are you telling me that the lion who puts that much care into the safety and well-being of his friends, and well, they're more than friends, they're his surrogate family, is that the type of lion who would just chow down with no questions asked and no regrets at all? Eating an animal that might look like his dear friend Marty? Seems like a bit of a stretch in logic, doesn't it? You'd think that this dude would be racked with guilt and regret and would maybe spiral, simply based on his actions in the previous film. And yet, nah, not a single mention. It's just never brought up again. That whole addiction storyline, it's never referenced, never mentioned, never cared about. And yeah, maybe it was for the best that they didn't run it back for the sequel, as then by the story would have become well and truly played out, but still, if we can't spend our time needlessly overanalyzing our favourite films and TV shows, then what the hell's the point of even living at all, am I right? And then, like I said, the third one does manage to avoid this problem altogether by having them join an international travelling circus, where they're clearly going to have access to any number of foods. Maybe Alex can live off a diet of hot dogs and other such goodies. Man, now I want to go find a carnival. Kind of hungry for some fairground food. And so yeah, in conclusion, the whole crazy carnival storyline, it doesn't really hold up under scrutiny. Neither their proposed solution at the end of the first film, nor the follow-up in any subsequent film. Or rather, the lack of follow-up in universe. Does it matter? No. Does it bother me? Yes. So deal with it. And so yeah, with all that being said, that's the end of the video. And these have just been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What do you think of the Alex the Carnival storyline? Do you think I'm just being a bit ridiculous? I'd understand if you thought so. Or are you on board with me? I'm honestly curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.